So pit, oh yeah, yins are crazy.
And welcome back into a YinsAreCrazy.com special. We are so excited to bring you another episode of BUCN Crazy. The Pirates season is winding down. It's a season that has not been so rosy, but last night it was Roansy. And I had to get that corny joke out of the way before I introduce my friends and YinsAreCrazy.com contributors, David Stegan and Elliot Hicks. We are absolutely thrilled today because we're going to talk to somebody who has essentially been Roansy Contreras' right-hand man as he has progressed through the Pirates system into one of their top prospects. And obviously what you saw last night, his name is Orlando Crance. He'll be on in just a few minutes. Before we talk to him, I want to get David and Elliot's perspective on Contreras' start last night. It's a start that went pretty well. 3 scoreless innings, David. And this is a guy, obviously, with a ton of arm talent who projects, hopefully, as a top-of-the-line starter for the Pirates.
You would hope so, and the stuff looked immediately there. I think if you're, just looking at the Major League roster, it's hard to imagine there's a guy currently with the team who has better stuff. His fastball, 97 miles an hour. You could see it was tailing away from left-handed hitters. That pitch to Ian Happ that he struck him out on, that just 95 gas up top. He has a great tight slider. Really showed that he has the tools there. He's a young guy. He's only 21, but he had a lot of poise, a lot of confidence. And I think, for Pirates fans, the night couldn't really have gone much better.
Elliot, he struck out 4, allowed 3 hits. But this is obviously a guy we've been excited about for a long time, ever since the Jameson Tynan trade that brought him over in the offseason. Did he meet your expectations in start 1?
Yeah, I would say so. But I would honestly argue that what happened on the field was not the most important thing. What was most important was, getting him out there and the fact that it was him getting 3 big league innings instead of some rando who is not going to be a part of the next Pirates playoff team. Obviously, he's had a season that's had a little bit of injury troubles. He hasn't thrown that many innings. It wouldn't surprise me if that was either his second to last, maybe even his last appearance of the year, just to kind of end him out on a high note. But just the fact to bring him up, put him in those challenging situations. In an article I read, I believe it was Ben Charrington said, if these guys are dominating this much at AA or AAA, it doesn't necessarily matter how young they are, how few innings they've thrown. We want them to continue to be challenged in their development. And throwing a guy up to the big leagues in a year where we probably didn't expect him to play in the big leagues was a good thing. And for a team where the wins and losses just do not matter anymore with, 4 games left in the year, getting him some big league innings was awesome to see, even if it was just a 3-inning start.
Yeah, no question about it. I think every Pirates fan that hadn't tuned into a game in a long time was glued to their television set last night. You know what those Pirate fans are going to be thinking, Elliot, as we head into 2022? They're going to want to see more of Roansy Contreras, but this is still such a young guy at 21 years old. Do you think he will start next season in the rotation? And should he? I guess those are 2 different questions.
I would say that he shouldn't and that he won't, because I feel like although I said it was great to get him big league innings this year, next year you start with a fresh slate. All the minor league teams are going to be going again. I think starting him off at AAA is going to make the most sense, because when you really think of it, as sad as this is for us to realize again, the 2022 Pirates are also probably not going to be that competitive. So we can see more of him in the big leagues next year, but push it toward late summer, maybe the last few months in the rotation. I still think giving him a few more months of consistent play at AAA, because he only had, I believe, 1 or 2 starts this year in AAA, even for us. Let's not rush him. 2022 is probably not going to be the year either, and we can have him completely ready to go for the 2023 opening day rotation.
David, do you agree?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with a lot of what Elliot said. I think the thing with Roansy, even with last night's innings, he's at 61 innings for the whole year. He missed a chunk of time over the summer with an arm injury, and teams are going to be careful about, his load management. They want to make sure they don't blow him out, they don't hurt him. It's not good for pitchers to kind of, be starting and stopping a lot. So it's going to see how they handle him. One thing for us to watch for is what's going to happen with him over the winter. He's an obvious candidate to go to the Arizona Fall League to maybe get some more innings. He is natively from the Dominican Republic. A lot of guys go home, play in the Dominican Winter League. That's a big thing for a lot of the Caribbean players. So to see what he's going to do in the offseason and then how that translates into next year. He obviously has the stuff to play right now in Major League Baseball. The question is, Are they going to want to start his service clock, get that continuing? Is that going to be a factor? Or are they going to want to just say, you know what, forget it. He's one of our best 26 players. He needs to be on the big league roster. And maybe you're just careful with his innings throughout the year.
Yeah, I'm already ready for the backlash and scorn of Pirates Twitter Nation when Roansy Contreras most likely starts the season AAA Indianapolis next year. It almost kind of felt like a reward, guys. That's what I was, feeling. Like the Pirates said, you guys have been loyal to us this season, our fan base. Let's give you a little something to end on a high note, right? A little fun before we close out the season. Here's Roansy Contreras. You know what else is a reward? We have somebody that knows Roansy Contreras better than maybe anybody in the Pirates organization does, coming right up for you here on BUCN Crazy. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates strength and conditioning coach with the Altoona Curve, really Roansy's right-hand man all season, Orlando Crance. And we officially want to thank Orlando Crance for joining us on this episode of BUCN Crazy. We're excited to talk a little Altoona Curve today, as he's currently the strength and conditioning coach over in Altoona for the Pittsburgh Pirates AA organization. And as we mentioned to you earlier, he obviously has played a large role in the development of the guy you saw last night, Roansy Contreras, Pittsburgh Pirates starting pitcher with a ton of promise. Orlando, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to produce this episode the day after his first start. I first want you to just introduce yourself a little bit to Pirates fans who might not be aware of who you are and your position. Just kind of explain a little bit what your role is with the team.
First and foremost, I wanna thank you guys for having me on your show. As you mentioned, this year was the strength and conditioning coach with the Altoona Curve, the AA affiliate with the Pirates, and basically something that I been doing for many years. I started back in 2006. My first team was the Mets, and then kind of migrated from the Mets to the Marlins, to the Yankees, Phillies, and now with the Pirates. So I'm being a little bit of a journeyman, if you want to call it that, as a strength and conditioning coach. And it's something, it's where my passion is what I know, what I do. And basically part of what I do with the guys is make sure that they're following a sound program to prevent injuries. This is the main objective of strength and conditioning, is just to manage workloads and injury prevention.
David or Elliot, you want to jump in?
Sure. I was going to say, Orlando, tell us a little bit about the year that Roansy had in Altoona this year. He came over in the Jameson Tyon trade. And, when trades like that happen, us fans, we look at Baseball American Fangraphs and try to learn about these guys. And Roansy just came over and he just lit the world on fire. You look at his numbers, striking lots of guys out. Really seems like a very talented young man.
Yes, Roansy has been great. A lot of promise, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of talent there. Great worker. He came from the Yankees organization, and right away he was a natural fit to the culture of the Pirates. I'm very, very excited about his future. Again, as you saw last night, that's who he is. So I'm very excited for him.
I was interested in a quote he made after the game where, I think the reporter asked if they were surprised, if Roansy was surprised that he was made Pittsburgh this year. And he said, "No, I have confidence. I thought I would be here. My goal was to get here." Tell us a little bit about Roansy, the person. What kind of, confidence does he have? What's he like? I also noticed on Twitter, a lot of, minor league teammates reached out and were like, "Go get him." They were very excited for his start.
Absolutely. I mean, he is a great teammate, as you could tell by the Twitter feeds. I mean, great guy on and off the field. I've been blessed to been around a lot of baseball players during my time in baseball, and he's right there with a lot of the great guys that I've been able to work with. Very humble guy, very poised, and he's very focused. I mean, his goal was to make it to the big leagues this year, That was his goal all along, and I'm very happy that he was able to accomplish that.
Good, Elliot.
Okay, yeah. So obviously Contreras has had a great season. It's been good to talk about him, but working with the whole team, Altoona had a lot of really good prospects down there this year. Were there any other guys who particularly impressed you working with that squad?
We certainly do, and if you're a Pirate fan, you gotta get excited about our talent in the minor leagues. I mean, we this year we were put on the top five farm system in baseball, and absolutely, I mean, there was a lot of guys in that squad that you're gonna be seeing soon, and hardworking guys. I mean, that's like the whole squad was great. Obviously, you have guys like O'Neill Cruz, you got Castro, you got Mason Martin, I mean, there's so many. So yes, for sure, you're gonna see more to come of those guys, and it's exciting. It's very exciting to be a Pirate fan right now because of what's to come.
We are joined on BUCN Crazy by Altoona Curve strength and conditioning coach Orlando Crance. BUCN Crazy is, of course, brought to you by Yinsylvania.com. I want to mention that as well. Check out their gear when you get a chance. Some really cool fall stuff for you to rep the Pirates, Steelers, Penguins, and more as we head to the winter before you know it here in the Berg. So, Coach Crance, I wanted to ask a little bit. Obviously, your job has a lot to do in terms of load management, right? It's especially critical with pitchers, especially a 21-year-old pitcher who I'm assuming every day you're monitoring his arm, what he's doing, how many times he's throwing, how he's working out. Can you just talk about that a little bit, and maybe how the game has changed over your 20 years in baseball in terms of making sure these guys' arms are sustainable for the long haul?
Absolutely. So there has been a lot of changes in baseball, as you guys know. I mean, guys are throwing harder. There's a lot of different focuses on extra velocity, and so one of the things and this year, by the way, and I commend anyone working in baseball this year, because it was the year after a lot of players, I mean, most of the players in the minor leagues, they didn't play last year. So I think it's important to note that what happened this year never happened before. A lot of guys came in from not picking up a ball, for over a year, and so it's important to keep that in mind as we look at what happened this year, because you go from having basically very limited workload. I mean, even if you train all year last year, but you didn't experience the rigors of the season, a regular season, you're still gonna be, this is still gonna be a high workload year for you. So that's kind of the way that we look at it. We came into the season basically hoping that obviously the guys maintain their fitness level, that they were able to do the most that they could within the constraints of not having a facility last year, because a lot of the places were closed. I mean, the guys that live in the north, obviously they had inclement weather issues, so they had to stay inside. So there was a lot to this year. So that's all that goes into account. The way that a lot of the guys were progress had to be influenced by the lack of ability to do work. So that's all that goes into managing workload. It's everything. Is the ability that they had to be in games, is the ability that they had to be outside, standing outside for a number of hours, because that's what we do all day during the season. So there's a lot that goes into that. And so for someone in my position, I obviously had to manage some of the extra workload. I mean, even the training that went into this year had to be somewhat manipulated, so that whenever someone seemed like they just needed, a little bit more of a break, like that, those things will be accounted for.
I think that's part of what makes, the success of guys like Roansy just amazing. He's from the Dominican Republic. He's 21 years old. It's the middle of the pandemic. He's dumped in Altoona, Pennsylvania, which I think is slightly different from life in the Caribbean. And he's playing against some of the best young baseball players in the world, and he dominated. I think that just is a testament to, really how great the year is that he had.
Absolutely. I mean, I give it to these guys. I mean, I had this conversation with one of my peers, and when you think about the fact that a lot of these kids don't get to see their families for whatever number of months, they have limited access. Some of them are married, some of them have kids. They're living in the Dominican or in another country, and they still have to perform at the highest level. That says a lot. That says a lot about who they are, and with again, within all the restrictions, because even with the year that we had, where we had to assume a lot more restrictions, trying to kind of create like somewhat of a bubble, so now you have even less exposure to crowds, maybe signing autographs and things like that. So it's like, you're become like very isolated, but yet again, like you said, you're performing at this high caliber level. It really says a lot about them.
We are rounding third base here with Pirates strength and conditioning coach in the organization, Orlando Crance. Orlando, my last question for you. Obviously, your job is a year-long job. We're entering the off season. Of course, I'm assuming you're going to be monitoring the regiments of pitchers like Roansy Contreras. Tell everybody at home what that kind of looks like in the off season.
So, and as I mentioned earlier, things have changed a lot in baseball. When I got into professional baseball, the off season was one of those areas where we felt like, wow, we can do so much more. And then, thanks to the evolution of baseball, that's where we are now. So we're a lot more hands-on with the programs of the guys, because of the pandemic. One of the great things that came out of it was that we were so involved in their process, as far as programming, as far as everything that went into making sure that they kind of ramped up to get closer to spring training of this year. So I think the pandemic, if anything, the pandemic, brought us that was really beneficial for us on the development side, was to stay closer and to find ways. It kind of forced us to use technology a lot more. Again, to be able to deliver programs to guys. We have an application. We have a platform that they use where we design programs. We have constant communication. Now that we are able to travel a little bit more, we're going to be traveling to respective cities, making sure that things are taken care of. If they work with somebody, they have their own coach or trainer in the off season. We're more involved with that process, more so than we were years ago. So that's kind of how this all comes together. And again, with some of the things that we were kind of forced to do last year, this is now we're kind of reaping the benefits.
Terrific insight, really cool stuff from a key member of the Buccos organization, Orlando Crance. Orlando, can't thank you enough for the time. It's been really cool. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in to this episode of BUCN Crazy, brought to you by YinzerCrazy.com. Make sure you check out the site for David and Elliot's analysis, and subscribe to us on YouTube over at Yinzer Crazy. We will catch you soon. Orlando, thanks again. So much fun.
Mike, David, and Elliot, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.